I would like to, if you're okay with it, switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
And I want to really focus in, because I think you have a lot to offer here, because I think there are people in our ministry, people in the church as a whole, more same-sex attracted people than we realize.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And I want to give it, an opportunity for you to help me help our young adult ministry, our church family. What are things that we could do to help? I don't know, not that they need to come out. I'm not asking anyone to come out and confess their sin to me or to anyone else, but what do we need to do in order to help create an environment where it's safe for them to exist as who they are,
Sure.
and to navigate their journey and their sanctification towards Christ?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. Well, I mean, it's a loaded question, but
yeah.
I think that what we're starting to see, we're the tip of the iceberg of this for sure, but I think more and more I think what we've seen in our culture with the pendulum swinging so far in the direction of, full acceptance and, love is love, and the way in which the church has been, in a lot of ways brought into that. And because we've been so behind, I think what we see in a lot of specific churches is in that desire to catch up, or in that desire to right wrongs, or heal where there's been hurt. The pendulum has swung in a pretty far direction the other way of like, it's okay as long as it's monogamous, as long as it's committed and it's consensual and all of that kind of stuff like that. And it's removed us from that place of, but what is God's best? And so I think, that's a long conversation, but I think one of the things that is just a helpful, aspect of things is, for so long, we've had this conversation in sort of this, I don't know, like a dichotomous kind of a way, where there's straight sexual sin and then there's gay sexual sin. And we kind of gloss over the straight sexual sin as like, well, that's just going to happen. Or like, how many times did I sit in a group of guys where it's just like, yeah, I'm struggling with lust. Oh yeah, me too. And we kind of laugh it off and like, yeah, it'll be, on to next week, guys. And me as a guy going, I'm not sure, because the way in which the conversation, at least it comes across of, well, at least it's not like that over there. And we might not even realize that that's what's being communicated or how that's being communicated, but it's being communicated. And I think one of the things that we have to come to is like where we create openness for the person who's experiencing same-sex sexuality or orientation, or however you'd like to communicate that same-sex attraction, is firstly, like, we have to recognize that just simply being attracted to something isn't a sin. Like, we all experience attraction at some level or another. Purely having that attraction isn't sinful. It's what I choose to do with that changes the dynamic of that conversation. And so I think one of the things that we have to do is recognize that there's a lot of people in the church who experience same-sex attraction and who are choosing, like, really want to follow Jesus, want to surrender. And in a lot of ways, let's not assume that everybody who has same-sex attraction is acting on it in a broken way. Let's recognize that there's plenty of people who are walking with same-sex attraction, who are stewarding and surrendering their sexuality better than those who have opposite sex attraction at times. Not always. And it's not this like, well, it's not competition. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that I think for the longest time,
heterosexual, I hear you saying like heterosexuals aren't more holy than
correct. We've aligned that just simply having the attraction is,
you're a broken person.
Yes.
And it's like, well,
we all are broken in our sexuality, but
yes.
that brokenness is exhibited through our behaviors, through the actions that we take on that. And so I think, first of all, like, laying that foundation of like all of it is in the same pot. there's not this special heterosexual pot, and then there's this pot that sits on the back burner that we don't pay attention to. It's like it's how we as a collective community steward our sexuality. It happens in the same conversation. Because the thing is that you already brought it up. There's plenty of people who have a heterosexual sexuality who still have this thought of like, well, if only I could experience sexual behavior, if only I could get married and then have sex, I'm going to be okay. Like that is
it's worshiping.
That's
it's
no less idolization
sex,
as the person who might say, well, if only I could act out on my same-sex sexuality, then I'm going to. It's the exact same phrase. It's the exact same hope. It's the exact same lie. And so we've got to bring that back into that place where there's not an us and them kind of mentality, but it's we. We collectively experience the battle and the war of living in a fleshly body filled with the Holy Spirit. And what do we do with these urges, with these desires? Because it's all about desire. And if we aren't talking about collectively about what's at the deepest part of that core, which is desire, then it just simply is about behavior.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today. If you found this episode helpful or impactful at all, go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel, and go ahead and share it to someone who you think it can impact as well. See you next week.